In a city that glowed all night, where the sky was sliced by towers of glass and the hum of machines never ceased, there lived a man who once believed that humans could touch heaven with wings of their own making. His name was Ethan Cole, an aircraft designer, brilliant and restless. As a boy, he dreamed of crafting flying machines that could carry people higher, farther, freer. A dream that felt almost divine. But when dreams turned into deadlines and passion became profit, Ethan began to lose something he couldn't name, something sacred. He poured himself into work, nights without sleep, meals forgotten, prayers left unspoken. His apartment was silent, his kitchen cold. The only sound was the echo of engines, the kind he built and the kind that burned inside him. Every time a plane lifted into the sky, instead of pride, he felt a weight in his chest, as if his own soul was suspended somewhere above, unable to land. The story begins on an autumn morning, when Ethan, a man who helped millions learn to fly, realized he no longer knew how to come down. Ethan Cole grew up in a small Midwestern town, beneath skies so wide they looked endless. He loved watching seagulls tilt and dive over the lake, believing he too would one day build wings strong enough for mankind. He studied hard, earned his place at a prestigious university, and rose quickly through the ranks of the nation's largest aerospace company. Soon, he was called the man who built the wings of the future. Money, fame, and power all came easily, like a perfect flight with no turbulence. But in the quiet of late nights, when the hangars fell silent, Ethan could hear the heavy beat of his own heart. He remembered his mother's words. "You can give others wings, son. Just don't let them take you too far from God." He didn't think he had. Not until the day he collapsed during a meeting, exhaustion catching him mid-sentence. The doctor told him to rest. Ethan laughed. "If I stop, I'll fall." What he didn't yet understand was that sometimes falling is the only way to rise. One evening after another endless day, Ethan drove aimlessly through the suburbs until he stopped before an old abandoned church. The stained glass windows glowed faintly under the streetlights, fragments of color trembling in the dusk. Inside, a boy sat on the dusty floor, folding paper planes. When he saw Ethan, he held one up shyly. "Sir, my plane can fly, but it always falls." Ethan knelt beside him, adjusted the folds, and tossed it gently into the air. It circled once, graceful, steady, before landing on the altar. The boy smiled. "I think God caught it." Ethan said nothing. His eyes lingered on the faded cross above the altar, cracked but still standing. For the first time in years, his heart felt quiet. "Maybe," he murmured, "God catches more than just paper planes." When Ethan left the church, he noticed something carved faintly into the bench by the door. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened." And he realized he was one of them. Days later, back at the factory, Ethan met Mr. Raymond, the oldest mechanic on the team, a man with oil-stained hands and eyes that had seen too many takeoffs and too few landings. Raymond handed him a cup of black coffee and said, "You know, kid, some things don't fly farther by adding more engines. They fly farther because they know when to rest." Ethan smirked. "If I stop, someone else will pass me." The old man shrugged. "If you keep running without stopping, you won't even know where you're going." That night, alone in his apartment, Ethan opened an old sketchbook. Inside was the first aircraft he'd ever designed, imperfect, hand-drawn, built with his father when he was 12. It wasn't sleek or modern, but it was full of joy, full of heart. He traced the pencil lines with trembling fingers and whispered to himself, "Maybe God doesn't want us to fly higher. Maybe he just wants us to fly right." Weeks later, Ethan was sent to supervise the launch of a new aircraft prototype. On the runway, under the hum of engines, he met Maya, a former colleague who had left the company to teach aeronautics at a local school. "You look tired, Ethan," she said softly. "You're trying to lift the whole world on your own wings." He didn't answer. She smiled, the kind of smile that carried both sorrow and peace. "I used to think flying meant escaping, but one day I realized God didn't give us wings to flee from the ground. He gave them so we could learn how to return." Her words pierced him like wind, cutting through the clouds. When the test plane roared into the sky, Ethan watched it soar higher and higher, and for the first time, he didn't feel the pressure to chase it. He felt peace. That night, he packed his bag, took a leave of absence, and drove back to the little church where it had all begun. The pews were empty, the silence holy. He knelt before the altar and whispered, "I'm here, Lord. I'm tired." And in that stillness, he heard a voice, gentle as wind. "I know. Rest now, my child. You've flown far enough." Months passed. Ethan sold his apartment and moved to a small coastal town. He spent his days teaching underprivileged kids how to build model planes from scraps, laughing as they raced them across the sand. "Wings are only beautiful," he told them, "when the heart that flies them knows where to land." Every morning he watched real planes trace white arcs across the sky, and for the first time in forever, he didn't feel envy. He felt peace. One afternoon, the same little boy came running up, holding a paper plane. "Mr. Ethan, look, it flew. And this time, it landed right where I wanted." Ethan smiled, watching the small paper wings flutter down onto the shore. "Good job," he whispered. "You've learned the secret." He looked up at the horizon, golden in the fading light, and said softly, "Thank you, Lord, for teaching me that my truest wings were never made of metal, but of faith." People in the little town often saw Ethan walking along the beach at dawn, his jacket worn, a paper plane in hand. Each time the wind rose, he would toss it into the air, and somehow, it always found its way back to him. One day, a woman passing by asked, "Don't you ever want it to fly farther?" Ethan smiled gently. "No, I just want it to come home." And so, in a noisy, hurried world, there lived a man who once built wings for humanity, but in the end found peace for his own soul.